Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been fucking up their interviews since 2017. I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other's interviews for years. They decided to come together to help you win your league and get a job.
Ooh. Interview season.
It really is interview season. This is like the time of year where people coming out of college interview for jobs. People in college interview for their internships. People like us that are way out of college are interviewing for jobs because we need to. And yeah, it's really, the pressure's on.
Pressure's on. People that have been in their jobs for a year, that just graduated last year, that hate their jobs, and they want a new job that they might hate as well. It's a circle of life.
What's your least favorite interview question?
What's your biggest weakness? I've been told from day one, turn that question into, well, my biggest weakness is actually, that I work so hard. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist, and it's actually a strength. And everyone's like, why are you the way you are? Why are you saying that? I hate that question.
My biggest weakness is actually that I was the valedictorian of my high school class.
I'm almost too smart.
And it really affected my self-esteem.
I find that my actual strength interviewing is asking questions at the end. For example, I was on this interview like a while back with the school district, and they'd never told me what school the job was at. So my first question at the end was,
what's the school?
So which school is this job for? And they were like annoyed that I asked, even though they hadn't told me. So not a good sign.
You don't need to know anything about the job that you're putting your life on the line for, Sean. Just get over yourself.
Needless to say, I'm still interviewing around. So
next, please. What's your
my least favorite? My least favorite is. Why are you leaving your other job?
Oh, yeah. Because it sucks.
Because the answer is, because I hate it.
Honestly, every single tough question like these that we just laid out, everyone just gives a politically correct answer, and it all sounds the same, I'm assuming. You can't
happen?
Botch it. So why do they even ask?
What would happen if you gave them the real answer? They're like, why do you want this job? And you're like, because I want money.
I think some people, it depends on the job. If it's sales, they'd be like, oh, I respect you. You remember that part in Ted where he's like, I forget what he says. He's like,
I hate you, but I respect you.
You're hired. You've got the job.
I like you, but you're crazy. Well, if anyone's looking for a job, Unqualified is hiring an intern.
Are we?
Social media expert.
We are.
I cannot wait to just make whoever we hire go get us coffee, even though we're hundreds of miles away from each other. All right, I want you to get me a coffee, and then go get Scott a coffee, and then get Rob some Taco Bell. All today.
No coffee for Rob. Yeah. Honestly, it's all about Taco Bell delivery.
Taco Bell cook.
Yep. Line chef. Front of house, back of house for Taco Bell to then deliver it to us again.
Yeah, so intern or prospective interns, get in the channels, get active in there, because that's where we're picking people out of. This is kind of a great segue for us because we're talking about a bunch of guys with brand new jobs this year. We're talking about the head coaching carousel that took place at the end of this NFL season, the beginning of the offseason, and I can't wait to discuss. It's got to be at least 15 new offensive play callers in the NFL. It's maybe a little less, but almost half the league will have a new head coach, play caller, or offensive coordinator at the start of this year. So we have a lot to get to, some changes we like, some changes we hate, and then we're definitely going to try to bury the lead on you. So if you want to know, is World War III brewing in Green Bay between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers? You're just going to have to stick around to find out.
The answer is probably.
It's called a cliffhanger, people.
Okay, we're going to start things off with some of the head coaching changes that we do like coming out of this 2018 NFL season heading into 2019-2020. And this group of guys, I would say if you had to liken them to a prototype for a type of guy that interviews for a job, these guys are the ones that either are walking into a place desperate to hire someone, or they're the type of guy that their resume just speaks for itself. It gets the job done, and they're set up for success heading into next year and beyond. And we're going to start it. We got to be optimistic about our hometown Jets. We're going to start right here in East Rutherford, New Jersey, with Adam Gase getting hired, stealing and poaching him from the Miami Dolphins, even though they did fire him. I mean, still, we did. I think they probably should have held on to him. We managed to snap him up. I think I'm in the minority of people, based on all the Jets fans that I've talked to, that loves this hire. I'm ignoring the fact that he had a weird, like, wide-eyed interview a couple of days after getting the job that people could not shut up about. To me, the most important part of this is not any of that, like, media hoopla. It's that he was the QB guru, before the QB guru gold rush that took place in the last couple of years. He was the OG, the Peyton Manning whisperer, and I think this hire will work wonders for our quarterback, Sam Darnold. What do you think of Adam Gase joining our Jets, Scott?
I actually really like it, too. I mean, you look at the Jets, they were going to take, maybe not going to take, but Mike McCarthy, the former Packers coach, was in the running, and he said the only job that he wanted was the New York Jets job. So that tells you a little bit about the situation that they would be walking into. You look at Mike McCarthy, he was technically a quarterback guru as well, maybe not to the level of Gase, but helped form Rodgers, had Favre a little bit towards the end of the twilight of his career, won a Super Bowl. So I was a little bummed when we actually hired Gase right away, just because I was, comparing it automatically to Gase, but I'm very happy with this hire. If you think about, you rewind a couple of years ago, I think Adam Gase's name was a little tainted after his time in Miami. The situation he walked into Miami 3 years ago was probably way worse than almost any of these situations for any of these teams this year. I don't want to say like way worse, but Miami was in shambles before he came there, and he coached it up with a quarterback that always got hurt, Tannehill, but Tannehill had some of his best years with Gase under the helm. There were some issues in terms of contract disputes and locker room things, but that, to me, is a lot about the makeup of the players, which has to do with the GM and that kind of front office space, as opposed to Gase. There's only so much Gase can do with some of the guys that he had there.
Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, that like organization is a disaster. Not that the Jets are a model of consistency, but we're not the team that had an assistant coach post a video doing cocaine in the office, meaning to post it to like his stripper girlfriend. That was not us. That was the Miami Dolphins. And
offensive
the reason I think that exactly, I mean, he's an offensive personnel coach that worked under Gase, and that's what he had to deal with there. I would say the reason I'm so optimistic about Darnold under Gase is because Gase was able to, he didn't win, but he got results out of guys like Brock Osweiler, injured Ryan Tannehill, Matt Moore, who had to play a shocking amount of games for them the last couple of years, and he still was competent. And they still, I mean, you could say what you will about their home field advantage, but people went down to Miami, and they, like the Patriots, went down a bunch of times, and they came out with losses because Adam Gase had those guys ready to go. So I'm very optimistic about Sam Darnold. Scott, what do you think about the rest of the Jets offense with Adam Gase?
Yeah, I think Gase, he kind of has some maddening running back situations. You look at Miami back in the day with Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore, and he was giving a lot of carries to Gore for some reason, and it was just kind of maddening. The Jets, I don't think Gase has ever had a talent like Le'Veon Bell, but now that he does, Gase is gonna line him up all over the place. And you think about like when Gase was the offensive coordinator for Peyton Manning back in the day, right? He had him for like 3 years.
Yeah, he had him for a while,
3 or 4 years. That was Peyton Manning, the future one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league history. That was some of his best years. So I think he's going to do wonders for Darnold. He's going to line up Le'Veon Bell in the slot, outside, deep throws. He's going to figure out if the defense is in zone or man because of Le'Veon Bell. They're going to do so much with this offense. Robbie Anderson's going to get open for some deep throws. Quincy Enunwa was annoyed with his role with the last offensive coordinator last year. There was a lot of screens and bubble routes. He's going to be more into the slot, just like Jamison Crowder, and also be pushed outside. So the wide receiving core is a little underwhelming. Chris Herndon could do really well, but he might be out for 2 games with a suspension. So just keep your eye on that. But overall, the talent is a little underwhelming, but I think Gase can get the most out of these guys. So I'm excited. Maybe, I don't think we're going to have a winning season, but maybe like 8-8, 7-9.
Yeah, and honestly, we could have a winning season. The NFL is such an up and down league, and the most important thing is I think this offense will be fun to watch for the first time in a while. And I do think, I love the prospect of Robbie Anderson getting more easy access targets via scheme as opposed to him having to just run by guys because he's fast as lightning. If we can combine that with a really good scheme, I think he could be really dangerous this year. And I think Enunwa is kind of sneaky. I think he's going to kind of have to play on the outside. Yeah. Based on the rest of the personnel. Herndon is obviously on the inside. So is Jameson Crowder. So I think by default, Quincy Enunwa will get a little bit more outside targets. I don't know if that's a great thing for him based on his skill set, but I think it'll help balance the offense a little bit. With all that being said, I think this is a net positive move for the Jets. I think offensive coordinator-wise, he picked up Dowell Loggains, who is just one of his guys. He was with him in the Dolphins and the Bears. And
great name.
He was formerly with the Titans. Great name. He's not really a play caller as opposed to Gase, obviously going to call the shots here, but very excited about this move. Let's talk about another move that I was very happy with. Bruce Arians getting picked up by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only way Bruce Arians coming back to coaching could have gone any better for me is if he went to Cleveland to coach Baker Mayfield. Alas, he winds up in Tampa Bay. I still think this is a great fit, at least for the first couple of years. Does anyone take deeper shots than Arians? And when you have the personnel like Tampa Bay does offensively, I think it's a match made in heaven. Down the road, I don't know if this is a long-term fit, but for this year and maybe the next 2 years after, you could not pick a better head coach to pair with this offense.
Yeah, especially for Jameis Winston in a contract year with all of his issues off the field. Guy like Bruce Arians is a little older, maybe can't relate as much as a Sean McVay can to the age of these players. I think he's one of the oldest coaches, but it doesn't really matter. He commands respect when he was on the Colts and he was the interim head coach, and then later on in his career too. Before that he was with the Steelers. Big Ben had some off the field issues. He was an offensive coordinator, and not that he turned him around completely, but if there's any guy that can keep Jameis Winston in line and get the most out of his skill set, it's definitely Bruce Arians. The only thing I take issue with is he airs it out. The running back situation is kind of a mess anyway, and I don't think they're going to run at all this year. They're going to test out what Jameis Winston can do, but they just lost Deshaun Jackson, he's a little older, but one of the best deep threats in the game. So Chris Godwin is going to have to step it up big time. This could be a career year for him, but I don't know if he's a deep threat that they need.
Bruce Arians looks like a guy that owns a hot sauce shop.
Oh, yeah. He belongs on a hot sauce bottle, if you ask me.
Half retired and owns a... I like that, yeah. He looks like he's always half retired.
He looks like if Colonel Sanders wrote a screenplay.
Yeah, he's got the hat. The hat is his classic look.
He should actually be on KFC commercials. He looks like him.
They should dress him up like the KFC man.
But yeah, in terms of that fit, I do like that. I think they're still rebuilding, but I think if anything, Colonel Sanders can get them out of that funk.
Yeah, and I would say it's funny that you mentioned Godwin earlier. I think Godwin could be the biggest riser in this offense. I think O.J. Howard, we kind of saw not his ceiling, but as long as Cameron Braid is still there, O.J. Howard is going to be in that second tier of tight ends as opposed to joining the top three. Chris Godwin, though, I think can make a huge jump this year with Deshaun Jackson gone, and I think Mike Evans gets a little bit more, a little bit closer to that target volume he had a couple of years ago when he was the number 2 overall receiver for fantasy purposes. I think both wide receivers under Bruce Arians, huge year coming, and they're going to need it because I don't think their defense is going to stop anybody. Now, talk about a segue right here. To get Bruce Arians, they had to let go of Dirk Koetter, and he could not have wound up in a better offensive fit for himself. He's now the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. He will run that offense. Dan Quinn is more of a defensive guy as the head coach. And to me, this is just incredible. I for years was just post Shanahan. Atlanta was just kind of the offensive coordinator was just a guy type. He had all this stuff at his disposal, and he just did the bare minimum. I think Dirk Koetter has the skill set to get the most out of these guys. I think great things are coming for the Atlanta Falcons offense under Dirk, and I'm happy he landed on his feet in the same division, no less. So this is a great move.
Revenge games. Nothing better than revenge games. Yeah, both these two changes, Bruce Arians and then Dirk Koetter, these are godsends for their quarterbacks too, so I wouldn't be afraid of Matt Ryan. He had almost a career year last year, almost 5,000 yards, only 7 interceptions, I believe. Jameis Winston's going to have a really good year too, but I think Cutter can get the most out of Matt Ryan. I think Calvin Ridley is going to be a steady wide receiver 2 for the rest of this year because of this move as well. There's Dirk Cutter is known for multiple wide receiver sets, so maybe even Mohamed Sanu can have some valuable weeks. Running game, it's only Devontae Freeman, but I think the jury's out if Cutter's offensive scheme lends itself to running backs. You saw Tampa Bay's kind of mess last year.
Yeah, and this is kind of a little preview of like our draft strategy here. Freeman is not the guy you want to wind up with if you go like wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. He's not the guy you want to hang your hat on as your running back 1 because we don't know if the fact that Dirk Koetter didn't run the ball in Tampa Bay was because of the personnel or because of who he is as an offensive play caller. I would venture it's probably more towards the personnel. I think Freeman will get a crack at it, but he's injury prone. I think this is going to be clearly a pass first offense. And to me, like I think people are overlooking Matty Ice. Like
I agree.
2 years ago was the MVP of the league and then comes back last year with a huge year. I think he's now joined the fantasy elite, and I think he's here to stay for the next couple of years. As long as you're throwing the ball to Julio Jones, I mean, you can't ask for much more.
And Ridley emerging and Austin Hooper kind of coming into his own. Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's look at another offensive coordinator hire, and this one was sorely needed in Dallas. Kellen Moore, he's a former quarterback. You've seen him all over the league. To me, he's kind of an unknown. Kind of an unknown, but again, it's better than what was there, which was just every team defensively knew exactly what the Cowboys were going to run. They were obviously talented enough to still get some results, but I think Kellen Moore, I'm going to bank on him being the creative play caller that can hopefully like tutor Dak and make him more dangerous in the passing game. I think this offense is actually primed for a sneaky good year. Obviously, you're not really worried about Zeke regardless of who's calling plays, but to me, I think Dak and Amari Cooper are a pretty sneaky combo heading into 2019-2020.
Yeah, and Randall Cobb, word out of the training camp is that he has a great relationship now and kind of chemistry with Dak. And I think, if anything, Kellen Moore, who used to be on that team, I think he was with Dak, too, for a year or two as their third string. And he just retired early because he wasn't really sticking around to any team. If anything, he can get the most out of that relationship and make that chemistry gel a little bit quicker because he knows Dak so well. So I wouldn't overlook Randall Cobb. I think what Cole Beasley did last year, you can definitely get another 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in addition to that. So you're looking at maybe scraping 1,000 yards and like 7 touchdowns, which is something like wide receiver 3 territory. And then, running game is going to be the same. I think there's jury's still out on Kellen Moore, but should help Dak at least, after getting a big contract.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, he's looking to get paid. As far as the last change we like, and this is one that I'm a little bit more uncertain on, but I'm willing to bank on what we saw at the end of last year for the Minnesota Vikings. They stuck with offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski. And look, the reason I like this move so much is because they were just so balanced at the end of the year. Dalvin Cook had a huge end of the year last year. I think that bodes really well for him heading into this year. The only question mark left, really, for me is Adam Thielen. He obviously got that huge contract, or at least he got the extension he needed because he was working for no money and he was having a little bit of attitude issues towards the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely had a quieter second half of the year after DiFilippo left. So he was, I think, the prime, not the prime beneficiary. He was the one that was hurt most when DiFilippo left. But in total, like, this is a net gain for this offense. Kevin Stefanski brought some balance to that team, and I think that means they're going to be more consistent week in and week out. Outside of just, they were kind of a one-man show with Adam Thielen. So I think this is a great move. Dalvin Cook is a top guy for me heading into this year based on this move. Scott, what do you think of Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota?
Yeah, I like it. I don't think it changes much for Kirk. And you're right about Thielen. I think about it too much. He did have a quieter second half of the year. Could chalk that up to defenses putting more pressure on him and Diggs kind of emerging a little bit more with 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. I think it's going to be a little more even this year, though. So Diggs might get underdrafted. Thielen might get a little overdrafted. I think they're going to probably be around the same in terms of production. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, I think he's primed for a huge breakout year. I know I keep on being on the fence about him and like changing my mind, but I think as long as he stays healthy, the sky's the limit. And then Alex Madison is going to be a good kind of change of pace, changing of the guard, running back when needed situationally.
I mean, he's just the type of guy as an offensive coordinator, or at least it seems like to me, he's the type of guy that will just stay out of the way. He realizes he has so much talent at his disposal. He's not going to try to make this offense about him and about his scheme. He's just going to let his players do their thing. And to me, that's music to fantasy owners' ears because all these guys are dripping with talent. I mean, to me, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, both you can get away with either one as your low end wide receiver one for 2019, 2020. So I'm excited about all these teams we just mentioned. I think each team we mentioned already was kind of in the plus offensive territory regardless. Maybe the Jets are joining that rank, but a lot of these teams are looking to go from like above average to now elite, and I'm hoping that they get there because that would just mean more teams that are fun to watch week in and week out.
All right, other end of the spectrum, let's talk about some changes we don't like and hate. Yeah. It's a strong word, but sorry. We despise everything you just did. Team A. Team A is Miami Dolphins. They changed their head coach from Adam Gase, so we're the beneficiaries of that as Jets fans. Head coach of Brian Flores. You heard of him
Nice.
before like this offseason?
No.
Yeah, exactly. And then offensive coordinator Chad O'Shea, dude.
Oh, sick. Chad.
What do you got for this one? I don't, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about Brian Flores before this offseason. Like I said, Chad O'Shea, I still don't know that much about, but how does this bode for their quarterback situation with, Josh Rosen now, Fitzpatrick?
I mean, for me, I think they're looking super long-term. I don't think they expect to be any good in the next couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
So I would say they made this move to get Brian Flores, it seems, in hopes of setting like a culture and a brand new identity there, and it's not going to be built overnight. They seem to kind of know that, which is good for them, but not good for fantasy owners, at least for the next couple of years. I don't think I'll own a single Miami Dolphin next year, and it has nothing to do with this coaching staff, really. It has more to do with just their organization doesn't seem intent on being any good at all. So
yeah,
the jury's still out on these guys, but I'm saying I'm staying away from this team regardless of the coaching. I wish them luck. I hope they go 5-11. That way there's some room for our Jets to kind of succeed, but I don't see this going very well. And look, the NFL is not a very patient business, so I don't know how long of a leash they're going to get.
Chad O'Shea looks more like a Dolphins fan than a Dolphins coach.
I haven't even seen it. Everyone Google him right now. Oh, wow, he does. One quick thing I will say about, he was on the Patriots too. They're trying to, this is a culture change. This is a culture shock. Taking a lot of Patriots guys and trying to put their system into South Beach. So Brian Flores, to his credit, he was a linebackers coach for the Patriots for 3 years. Linebackers are always one of the best parts of the Patriots. Looked at Jamie Collins and Dante Hightower and all those guys. Like, it was one of the best parts of their defense, range-wise, mobility-wise, sack-wise. So I got to be honest. And also drafting Christian Wilkins, who, if you remember in the draft, was like the guy jumping up and down when he got picked, 13th overall from Clemson. It's a pretty enthusiastic bunch on defense. So I will give them credit as maybe they're a potential sleeper defense that you can, be on the lookout for. They could be like under the radar, like the Jaguars were 2 years ago. So just some food for thought. Move on to the Denver Broncos. We got a head coach, Vic Fangio, and an offensive coordinator, Rich Scarangello, which they sound like they're neighbors in like Brooklyn, Italian Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, they're hanging out watching The Sopranos.
Yeah,
trying to get some gabagool.
Gabagool.
What did you say? Thick banjo?
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's
thick banjo.
Pretty much.
Vic Fangio plays a thick banjo. One thing I will say to his credit, the Chicago Bears defense, he was the defensive coordinator last year, was really good. It was dirty, shall I say. So now you put Vic Fangio, he's a head coach, of course, but you put a veteran guy like Joe Flacco who can kind of coast on offense. Jury's out on him, but defense. You got Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. Vic Fangio is a godsend for those guys. So Denver Broncos defense could be back to like top 5 status and maybe even past the streamer status.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of hope that their defense creates opportunities for their offense because I don't see Joe Flacco lighting anybody up. I think Rich Scarangello is kind of in like that Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay type mold. That's what they're kind of hoping for. There's only so many of those guys out there. I don't think you could just like create them like you're playing Madden. So I don't really see this going that well. I honestly don't really love the Broncos personnel. Like I know they have some competent guys there, but they're not really like an explosive bunch. Philip Lindsay had a nice rookie year, but I'm not sure I'm going to really love having him on my team this year. And I'm so unenthused about Flacco. I just don't really like this offensive group as much as I do like the defense.
Sanders is back on our hate list.
Yes, because he's hurt. Only because he's hurt,
better.
though.
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you guys, but I wouldn't be doing my job as a producer if I didn't bring it up. It's actually Rich Scangarello.
Oh, my God.
Scangarello.
It's not Scarangello. It's Scangarello.
What an idiot. That's why when I Googled him, he didn't come up with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that tells you all you need to know about him. We don't know him.
Yeah.
Scarjagello.
If this was an interview, you'd both
would botch that question. So
yeah,
we're kind of shaky right now. Maybe we don't get the job. Okay.
Rich Scangarello clearly really good in the interview room because I don't even think the Broncos knew who he was until he walked in there.
Very true.
Also, Scarangello is a cooler name than Scangarello.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna tell him from now on.
Sounds like gelato or I don't know. Yeah, it flows a little better.
Scarangello. He runs around Scarangello.
Well, let's go to a name that we definitely know is right. Zach Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals. What do we got on the Bengals change? They changed from Marvin Lewis, who was there for what seemed like a millennia.
Yep, you got
Jesus.
it. You got it. I would say they're swinging for the fences here. They're hoping he's the next Sean McVay again. Yep. I mean, there's only so many of those guys. I'm a little more optimistic. I just don't think the Bengals are really set up to succeed. I still like Joe Mixon this year. I think if they're going to try to be like the LA Rams light, I think they have some of the personnel to be decent on offense, but I just think the quarterback is not going to get them where they need to go. I think, AJ Green is kind of on my hate list going into this year. Tyler Boyd couldn't really make it through last year without getting banged up and not playing well. So while Zach Taylor might have some fun scheme changes here, and he might be great for Mixon, overall, I'm not really expecting much out of this team.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You're going to draft a running back on a bad team. Good luck to you. That's something I've learned over 10 years plus of playing fantasy football. Doesn't matter how talented the guy is, if it's Joe Mixon, if it's Adrian Peterson. They're on a bad team. They're not going to run it as much, and if they're not going to catch balls out of the backfield, if they're not a 3-down back, they're going to be off the field. So you're just going to be like hoping that they're on the field. Kind of like, I hate to say it, but Dalvin Cook last year, like the Vikings weren't that good. They weren't nearly as good as we thought they were. They passed the ball a lot because their defense let up a lot of plays. That's why Thielen did so well. So just be wary of drafting any Bengals this year. I will say to Zach Taylor's credit, he was the Rams assistant wide receivers coach in 2017. They had a pretty good year then. They had Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I think it was before they got Brandon Cooks, and they still did pretty well. And then they had Sammy Watkins that year, I believe. And then last year, he was the quarterback's coach, and Jared Goff had his best offensive season. And a lot of that is chalked up to Goff, but, I mean, still, Zach Taylor probably had a lot to do with it. Same with McVay. So I think it's similar to the Dolphins. They know they're not going to be good, but they're kind of just like doing their due diligence, getting their guy for the next future. But let's move on to the Tennessee Titans. So same head coach, but offensive coordinator. We got Arthur Smith. It's a very generic name. There's nothing really funny about that name that I could think of off the top of my head. But former tight end coach, and they added Ryan Tannehill in the offseason as a backup.
Oh, sick.
Sick, dude. This team, it's just, oh, God, they're so boring. They're just boring. I'm sorry, Derrick Henry did well last year, but, I don't care.
For me,
care.
I think Derrick Henry is the only Titan I want to own in any stretch. It's not like I'm going out of my way to get him, but
yeah,
I'm going to assume they're going to give him the ball 275 times or 300 times because I can't really see them with a former tight end coach coming up with this like revolutionary offensive scheme that's going to like blow people away. They're going to be boring. They're going to have to run the ball a ton. They have a former Patriots linebacker as their head coach, so clearly they want to be tough as nails. I think Derrick Henry is really the only fantasy relevant starter right off the bat. I'm intrigued by A.J. Brown, but I mean he's a rookie wide receiver with a brand new offensive coordinator and an uncertain quarterback situation. It just kind of is not a great situation overall.
Yeah, Corey Davis is still like the number one guy, quote unquote. Didn't do nearly anything last year, but if anything, like if you're going to take a wide receiver, take Corey Davis in around like 13 or 14 as a flyer. But Delaney Walker, we got the former tight end coach as the new offensive coordinator. Could be fruitful for him, but he's 34 at this point and just coming off a bad injury. So I don't know. I wouldn't chalk that up to anything in particular as of now. Let's move on to the same division, Jacksonville Jaguars. Offensive coordinator, we just said his name before, John DeFilippo.
Why?
Shaking your head. Yeah, why? Exactly. You're going to draft any Jaguars players this year?
No, I mean, I don't. I think this is bad news for Leonard Fournette based on how limited Dalvin Cook was in Flip's system last year. Mm-hmm. He clearly can set up a passing game. Like that is, we know that. But the personnel here is not even close to what it was in Minnesota. So I just, this is kind of like a team I kind of already was out on getting a coordinator that just settled it for me. Like, there's too many good teams in the NFL to waste your time drafting Jaguars offensive players. It doesn't make any sense. Leonard Fournette, I'm sure I haven't owned him, and I don't think I will in the near future. It was
infuriating last year.
Yeah, I was gonna about to pass it over to you. Seemed like it was not a great time, so I'm staying away from the Jags
at all because there were two backups that I needed handcuffs for. It was so annoying. Remember they had not Spencer Ware, they had
Yeldon.
Yeah, well, TJ Yeldon was the pass catching back when Fournette was out, and then they had Carlos Hyde. They traded for him.
Oh my god!
It was like, which one do I own? None of them, but I need them. But Leonard Fournette's still out. It was horrible. I'm the same way.
What was Flip's system?
Okay, it was essentially I'm going to throw the ball like 40 times a game, especially underneath into Adam Thielen, who's like an underneath kind of jack of all trades wide receiver. And I don't think the Jags have a guy like that. And I don't think they can protect Nick Foles. Like when you go from Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs to Nick Foles, Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook, it's just Marquise Lee. Like, I'm not excited about that at all. So I'm staying away.
Those are the straight up B versions of those A versions that we just said. But I will say, I was reading something about, this is a flyer, deep league flyer. Chris Conley, they're raving about him in training camp. He has really good chemistry with Nick Foles. Chemistry doesn't mean a ton in the offseason because there's so many months left. But if there's anyone that's going to step up, and if DeFilippo is going to throw it as much as he did with the Vikings, and Foles can take it, maybe do a flyer on Chris Conley, who was a second-round pick, but just buried on the depth chart with the Chiefs because they had so many other good players. But last one we want to talk about is the Detroit Lions, our least favorite.
Mine. Yeah, my least favorite.
Yours. It's our bottom. It's in my bottom three. New offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell, former Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator.
The one thing I'm gonna try to be nice. If you can't say anything nice, you shouldn't speak at all. So I'm gonna try to be nice here.
Nice
the one thing
moment.
that I kind of like, and not that I really like it, but one thing that makes me raise my eyebrow a little bit. This guy is clearly committed to the running game.
Yep.
And that might be really good news for Kerryon Johnson, who honestly is the only Detroit Lion that I'm really excited about. Maybe I'm like half excited about Kenny Golladay, but Kerryon Johnson I think is kind of an interesting play this year. I think he's kind of going underrated at the moment, which I love. He's a pretty exciting player if someone, this offensive coordinator can commit to him. Based on it being the Lions, I'm going to say they're probably going to make it like a mess, but it's there for them to take.
Yeah, I think anything to get the ball out of Stafford's hands after that horrible year last year where I just completely whiffed on him is good news. So Kerryon Johnson, I really do not know where to put him in my pecking order, but it feels like every single running back tandem nowadays or running back situation nowadays is just a committee. And they just added C.J. Anderson, which I hate to say it.
Ugh.
He's been cut by some teams and really underwhelmed a lot. He was really good with the Rams last year towards the end because of their offensive line, but he's an enigma. He could be great. It could be a 50-50 split. Kerryon Johnson got hurt a lot last year, and Darrell Bevell knows how to get the most out of his running backs, so it might be maddening in the beginning. For a 4th or 5th round pick, I don't know that I'm going to take a risk on a Kerryon Johnson when I could have a more of a sure thing like, I don't know, Dalvin Cook. Maybe you're not getting him that late, but I don't know.
Like Cooper Kupp, for instance, might go in that range. I'd much rather have him than
as your flex.
Kerryon.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the changes we hate. We really hate them.
If you want to find out about the best-looking coach in the NFL, stick around. Just burying the lead. Okay, Scott, we've buried the lead long enough. It's time to get to 3 of the most interesting and exciting coaching changes for this offseason, and we got to start right away.
Dig it up.
The talk of the offseason, the Arizona Cardinals hiring head coach Cliff Kingsbury. Kind of an outside the box hire, but one that a lot of people are excited about. A lot of people are feeling like it's the worst move ever, and some people think it's the best move ever. It's a very hot topic out there these days. I personally think this is going to be really fun. I think that it may be a little Chip Kelly-ish in that Cliff Kingsbury comes in really hot the first couple of years and then fizzles out. But I think at least for this first year and maybe the second year after, I think this is going to be a pretty interesting and pretty fun offense overall. What do you think of Cliff out in the desert, Scott?
I think if anything, one of the knocks on him was that he didn't do that well as a college coach. He was at USC, right?
Texas Tech, I think.
Texas Tech, and then his record didn't really show all that he can do. So I think the change from college to head coach in the NFL is kind of weird. I mean, you look at it like people in the past. I'm trying to think. Jim Harbaugh couldn't really command a room of 35-year-old guys. Like he was getting 18, 19-year-olds revved up for game day at Stanford, and then changed to San Francisco where these guys were like, all right, no, like we don't need those tactics. So I don't know if that's going to happen here. I do like it for the sole purpose they have Kyler Murray now, and I think he could do a ton. And not to say he's a QB guru, but he could do a lot for Kyler Murray and kind of get creative with him.
He's pretty young himself, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
I think he's
Is that a liability?
I think he's in his 30s right now. Is he?
He was widely regarded as one of the best looking college coaches out there. He was like an internet sensation. And
I'd do it.
To be honest,
is that
people are going to say that that's a detriment, but I think that he kind of has a magnetic presence. I think he's going to get guys to buy in. He seems like a guy that's going to be like to Larry Fitzgerald, look, I'm not trying to step on your toes. I just need you to do this. And I feel like Larry Fitzgerald will be like, yeah, cool, dude. Sounds great. And I think that he can probably set these guys up in a position to succeed. The only question I have is, do they have the offensive line to support what he wants to do? He runs this empty set heavy 10 personnel air raid system that he needs offensive linemen to block. So, that's the only question mark I have. If they have that, I think they're going to be really successful because they have every other piece they could need.
Yeah, they didn't make any changes to the offensive line that I know of that are noteworthy, at least. So it's gonna fall a lot on Kyler Murray. Hopefully, he can stand up to the numerous amount of sacks he's going to get because every single college player, Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, that's a runner. It's a rude awakening. I hate to say it in the NFL because everyone is fast in the NFL. NFL is chock full of the best college football players. So you pit Kyler Murray against Alabama times 2. He's not going to outrun as many people as he did. So I don't know. Kyler Murray is a separate story, but I think this is really good for Christian Kirk. All the changes. I know you're big on Christian Kirk, but David Johnson. What are you thinking for him in terms of this year? Is he going to have a big bounce back?
It could not have been any worse than it was last year for David Johnson. And I think that he is really the X factor for this offense. He's the ultimate weapon. He's going to do essentially for Arizona what Le'Veon Bell is going to do for us coming into this year. He's going to split out. he's going to start up in the backfield, split out into empty sets, and then catch like 70 balls and be a stud running back one because he's going to get the right kind of looks. Like, if nothing else, Cliff Kingsbury is going to use David Johnson because he's the most elite offensive piece that he has. So I have
the combo
almost
is dreamy.
confidence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
So, I mean, they might suck to the O-line, but they're going to be compulsively watchable for me. And hopefully one of the two rookie wide receivers, both of whom I love that they drafted, hopefully at least one of them kind of breaks out because this is probably Larry Fitzgerald's last ride, I would say.
I would hope so. Guys, I love him, but he's getting up there.
Yeah. So let's transition to another kind of hot button issue or coaching hire here. Matt LaFleur, long lost cousin of the esteemed dodgeball stud Peter LaFleur. Cramming up your cram-hole, LaFleur.
That's a great name.
I honestly don't know what to think of this hire. I was kind of big on him in Tennessee last year, and it backfired big time. I think a lot of that has to do with personnel. Obviously, when you upgrade to Aaron Rodgers, like, things are going to go better. I love Devontae Adams. We both love Aaron Jones. To me, like, the setup is there. I'm just really concerned that Aaron Rodgers' ego is going to clash with this guy because he's another young upstart head coach, and Aaron Rodgers is not exactly like, a 25-year-old guy. Like, he's clearly established. He could probably run the offense himself if he wanted to. So I don't know how that relationship is going to go.
He's also an ass. Aaron Rodgers is got Mike McCarthy out the door. Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like LaFleur is going to crumble under the pressure. He's also an injury-prone guy. He got injured.
Yeah.
Best of speedy recovery. Sorry, I didn't mean to make fun of it, but it was like one of the first injuries, like on the injury report for the Packers. It was like, pretty sure he tore his ACL, didn't he?
He did something like serious, and it was during like a staff pickup game or something. I was just like, okay.
I kind of like.
I don't know if I love that or hate it.
I kind of like it. I like when guys are gritty like that, but like, come on, man, just like
not at a
tighten
staff
up a little
pickup
bit.
game, though.
Yeah, not in a pickup game. Well, I can attest to that. Soccer pickup really gets me every time. Puts me in the hospital sometimes. But yeah, I think it's tough to say. I think when you look at Matt LaFleur's past, he was the Atlanta Falcons quarterbacks coach, 2015 to 16, 1 year. Matt Ryan's year that year was 21 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 4,500 yards, quarterback rating of 89, QB or completion percentage 66. Nothing to write home about. And this is the year right before his MVP caliber season when he got Shanahan. So they made a big change from Matt LaFleur. Then he went to the Rams as offensive coordinator. 2017, good year, but not mind-blowing. Titans coordinator last year, nothing special about it. Packers are going to be nothing special, I think, this year. I like the Packers as a team, but 8-8 is in the books. Devontae Adams will get his. Aaron Jones will get his, but Geronimo Allison, I think people are way too overhyping, and I don't think he's going to do anything.
See, for me, like I feel like the range of outcomes, like I feel like 8-8 is kind of the floor when you have Aaron Rodgers, but again, like the ego, they're already arguing about like Aaron Rodgers' ability to check plays at the line of scrimmage, and not a good look, especially when it's like not even August, not even July yet, and they're already arguing about that. So don't love that. I also don't really like the offensive coordinator hire. Not that he's going to call the plays anyway, but Nathaniel Hackett, what did he show Matt LaFleur in Jacksonville last year that made him say, that's my guy? I don't see that at all.
Don't see a thing.
So I think we're kind of on the same page in that we don't really like this. I think it could. There's an outside chance that this is the best coaching hire of this offseason, but it's a very slim chance. So more likely we're going to see a lot of ego clashes, and it's going to get pretty ugly out there in Green Bay.
We talked about this last episode or the episode before, but teams are, always try to replicate what other teams are finding successful. This is an exact example of that, and teams are getting too cute. They're trying to find the next Sean McVay, the next Kyle Shanahan, and they're digging down the wrong holes for it. So this is underwhelming on all accounts, I think. All
right, let's look at a team that kind of made almost the opposite spectrum of change here. They wound up sticking with their interim head coach, Freddie Kitchens, or the interim offensive coordinator, rather, hired by the Cleveland Browns as their head coach. This guy is like a character. He is just out of left field. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of upset they didn't get Bruce Arians instead. I think Freddie Kitchens is. I think he's smart enough to like stay out of his players' way, because there may not be a team outside of like the Rams and the Saints that have more offensive firepower than the Browns do. So hopefully he stays out of the way. I think he will. I love their offensive coordinator hire, by the way. Scott, what do you think of Freddie Kitchens with the Cleveland Browns? I know you're a big Baker guy. Does this change that?
Yeah. It doesn't. First of all, he looks like he owns a Denny's. He's like a franchise owner of a Denny's. If you guys want to look up Freddie Kitchens.
The Browns love their big boys. They love their big boys.
Yes, they do.
Yep. The jury's out. Like, there's not that much tape on this guy. Weird to say tape, but again, look at his body of work. He was with the Cardinals for 10 years, 2007 to 2017. Tight ends coach for 5. Quarterbacks coach for 3 of them. Running backs coach for 1, maybe 9 years. Running backs coach for 1. So he was never an offensive coordinator. Then when he came to the Browns last year, he was an associate head coach and running backs coach. That's what he started as. And remember, Carlos Hyde was the starter. They had Nick Chubb as the second running back there. Duke Johnson's the third. Nick Chubb was getting like 2 carries a game, and he was the running backs coach. Which, to me, like, doesn't bode well. Then he was the offensive coordinator. I think when they fired Todd Haley, right? Didn't they get rid of Todd Haley? They cleaned house.
Oh yeah.
He was the offensive coordinator for a little bit, and then I believe got promoted to head coach later on or something, interim head coach. It was a weird like comedy of errors last year, but I don't know. I think that the team is talented enough, so he's going to get the most out of those players because they're going to bring it about themselves. I think Baker has Odell now, and he is going to be a top 5 quarterback, but that's just on Baker. He had one of the best rookie seasons in a while since like Peyton for a quarterback, but I don't know about the running back situation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I loved Nick Chubb on paper coming into this year, but the fact that they picked up Kareem Hunt, not that he's going to play anytime soon anyway.
Week 10.
Once again, like, you have your guy. Why are you playing Carlos Hyde over him? And then why are you picking up Kareem Hunt? Like, right. I understand that he's talented. I get it. You're trying to be like sort of like Chiefs level of like talent and risk. I get it. I understand it, but like, can you just say Nick Chubb is our guy and we're going to go with him for the whole year? It just makes no sense to me. And then on top of that, now here's the flip side. Todd Monken getting hired as the offensive coordinator, that's a great hire because he was awesome last year with Tampa Bay. He was really the guy manufacturing that Fitz magic that was coming out because Dirk Koetter did at some point step away and let Todd Monken run the show.
Yep.
He was awesome last year. I'm kind of upset the Jets didn't pick him up to be a part of our staff, but
he was in the mix.
I think that bodes really well for Baker. I think that overall the staff is putting them in a good position to succeed. Even though I think that I'm a little unenthused with the Freddie Kitchens hire.
Hot take here. This team is going to kind of stumble out the gates, in my opinion. Maybe 2-3, 2-4, 1-3, 1-4. Freddie Kitchens is going to get canned because there's such high expectations. Todd Monken is going to take over. And they're going to air it the F out. I think that's my hot take on them.
Todd Monken looks like the manager of a sports authority. And
I dig it.
And Freddie Kitchens looks like he works for Todd Monken Sports Authority.
We're gonna need to turn this into a whole other segment. Let's do it.
I have a feeling that's going to come up maybe soon.
Ooh, I'm excited.
All right, so before we let you go from the coaching changes episode, we want to. An episode wouldn't be complete without some awards, preseason awards. So we took it upon ourselves. We don't know these guys specifically or individually, but what we do know of them and their names, we took it upon ourselves to give out some preseason superlatives to our new head coaches, a few of them. You ready for this, boys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Listeners, strap in.
Jinx.
Because you're about to hear some fantastic awards, and find us in the channels if you don't like them or if you disagree.
Or come up with some of your own superlatives.
Come up with some of your own.
DM them to us, and we'll post them on the Instagram and the Twitter.
Love it. So we're going to start off. Most likely to be an insurance agent, Darrell Bevell.
Oh, yeah. That says it all. The
it
name
just
says
sounds like a name that you call when your house floods, and you're like, "Oh God, what's our State Farm insurance guy's name? Daryl, right? Daryl, Daryl Bell. We'll call him up." And he sounds like he would be boring. I don't know. I've never heard him talk, but he definitely sounds like he has a dry voice. Yeah.
Oh, I like that one. It's a great start for us, Scott. We might have to call Daryl Bell if we get in trouble.
Wow, he does. Yeah, he does look like an insurance. You put some khakis on him and like a State Farm blue shirt.
Yep.
And like a clipboard with like a pen.
It looks like he has one kid that he's not proud of.
Oh, that's a hot start for Daryl.
A hot take.
Daryl
right
Bevel.
Let's just stick to insurance agent.
Sorry, Daryl.
Oof. I think we're going to hit pretty hard in these next couple ones. The most likely to own a tropical island seafood restaurant is Todd Monken.
Todd Monken, yeah.
Todd Monken, he just seems like the type of guy that's got the white apron, he's full of grease from the fryer, and he's carrying out a plate of catfish to a nice customer.
Catfish and nibblers, fried catfish nibblers.
Oh yeah,
sweating bullets.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's a sweaty
hair
restaurant owner.
That's his hair slicked back in the hairnet.
And he's called Big Todd in the restaurant. That's what they call him. Big Todd.
Some people call him T when they walk in. Like, T, give me the regular.
T-bone.
Also, his last name sounds like Monkfish.
True. Most likely to be assistant manager at Home Depot, Freddie Kitchens.
Freddie
Kitchens looks like an assistant manager who's gone through a spiritual awakening.
Is he assistant manager or assistant to the manager at Home Depot?
Very good question. I'm going to say he started off as assistant to the manager, but then worked his way up by selling some tables and kitchen sets.
Nice.
That beard just says it all.
Next, actually, have you seen a picture of him before the beard?
Oh, no. Is that something we should look up?
Completely different guy. Huh. Completely different guy.
Ooh, yeah, he's got a...
I don't have any comments to make about it, but he definitely looks different.
I think
he's like a nerd, actually.
Without the
he's
beard,
making some paint samples for you. Whipping up some chartreuse paint samples for you.
That's a good color, man. Yeah, without the beard, he looks like a Denny's owner. That was more accurate when you said that before.
He looks like Bob Wiley's son.
Yeah, he does.
Why can't we get Bob Wiley a head coaching job?
Come on, we need that. We should start a petition, honestly. Post on Instagram about it every day.
He would be the head coach, and his belly would be the assistant coach.
Next. Next, we got most likely to have a midlife crisis and move to the woods of Montana or the Dakotas, we could throw in there, or Idaho, and chop his own wood. Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh yeah, he's
couldn't resist
the main character of a middle school survivalist novel that you read in 7th grade.
That.
Nathaniel Hackett.
He just couldn't hack it,
and it takes place in like the Pacific Northwest, like Portland or Montana.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's Portland or Seattle, not Montana. I don't know. It's somewhere in the woods. Like, you know where, what's the old Rams coach? Jeff Fisher? Didn't he go to, like, Montana? He's like,
house in
Montana or something?
They're neighbors. They're neighbors up there. They have a lot of cabins.
That's what I've heard.
He looks like he organizes mindfulness retreats.
Yes.
Before he did the
Come
move
out
to Montana.
to the desert and drink ayahuasca and think about your business.
Wow, ayahuasca.
Learn how to build your business in 12 ayahuasca shots.
Oh, we're going to leave that there before we get ourselves into a little bit of trouble. This is the most likely to run his own dodgeball league or a crappy gym, Matt LaFleur. You can't ignore the nickname. His long-lost cousin, Peter LaFleur, we mentioned him earlier. You should just cram it up his cram hole because White Goodman is a sworn enemy of the LaFleur clan. Coming at you.
Who's the White Goodman of the coaches? That's going to be. I mean, it has to be in the NFC North, right? Matt LaFleur's Packers, so it's going to be like the Lions coach or Vikings or Bears. Oh, maybe not. We'll workshop.
I would say Mike Zimmer. Maybe out of those four.
Yeah. He seems like a bully. Remember Hard Knocks with him when he's the Bengals defensive coordinator? Like, 8 years ago. If you haven't seen that, check it out.
And they got the purple thing going for them, so it's perfect. It works.
That's true. Cramming in your cram.
Most likely to be featured on Playgirl magazine and or pornos. Cliff Kingsbury.
He's got the name. He's got the name. Let's just leave it at that.
He's got the name.
And he's a good-looking dude.
Does he have the looks?
Yeah, it's just about.
He's got the looks.
Yeah.
we just saw Rob fall in love in real time. Does he have the looks? Does he have the looks? He's got the looks.
He's got the looks.
Got lost in his eyes for a second. How do you think he coaches so well? It just mesmerizes his players with his eyes.
It's like the first time I heard the Beatles staring into his eyes.
Beautiful baby blues.
Deep bluish hue. Next, we got most likely to be smoking cigars at their stepdaughter's weddings / trying to impersonate Tony Soprano. We got 2 contestants here, 2 winners. So there's gold. There's gold and gold being handed out here. Rick Scangarelli, and Vic Fangio, teammates as well. Congrats, guys.
Yeah, they're big salami guys. They like a nice salami sandwich with pepperoni and mortadella.
Yep.
Rick,
and they walk into a deli
and
like everyone knows them. Everyone like stays away from them. They get their usual order. They cut the line. They don't pay for it because it's like under the table.
Navy
go outside,
jumpsuit.
smoke a cigar. Yeah. Ooh, definitely jumpsuits and chains.
Stay away from those guys. All right. My last one here is the most likely to play polo on Sundays in Connecticut, Chad O'Shea.
Ooh,
totally, man.
The only other sport that is in his repertoire is what's the one where you there's a little like little tiny goals in the ground and you like hit it with a little mallet. What's that called?
Oh, like through your legs.
Yeah, what's that called? Oh my god, that's his main sport.
Croquet.
And while he's not he's a big croquet guy, but polo he grew up playing. It's his first love, and he wins those tournaments. You know, the Champions Cup, and he kills it on the pitch. I don't know any other polo terms, so that's his game. Chad O'Shea.
I think this is solely based on his name because he doesn't look like a polo player, but his name says it all. He definitely grew up. He's like a horse guy. But also like a popped collar, like polo, like actual
He's
polo
got
guy.
three polos, all the collars popped.
Ooh, yep.
You can see all the colors, 3 different colors. Love it.
Ooh, yikes.
Whitest sport in America.
One of them.
He looks like a turtle. Most likely to be a turtle.
Chad.
Chad O'Shea. Most likely to be an Army Ranger Lieutenant, Brian Flores. I don't even know what he looks like, so I'm going to have to look him up in real time right now.
He looks stern.
Brian Flores. Image results. Oh, my God. The first image I see is a very intense look.
Right.
He's smiling, but he looks like he's shooting laser beams out of his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like he can make you shit bricks. Like Lieutenant Flores. That sounds like it goes. Could be Delta Force.
You could see his eyes from 10 miles away.
Yeah. He's the kind of guy that, like, you know he's staring at you, even if you're, like, back away from him.
Yeah, you can feel it. You can feel the gaze.
Flores is
He has to be careful when he opens his eyes. If he looks too long, he could shoot through a wall.
Very much.
Gazer beam.
Laser, taser. All kinds of lasers.
You want to turn your weekend up? Hang out with Brian Flores.
And that does it for our superlatives. So we might revisit this like mid-season superlatives, but find us in the channels about it.
Get in those channels, people.
Get in the channels. Taco Bell.
Yo
quiero.
Live Moss.
Taco Bell.
And that does it for our coaching changes episode. Coaching Carousel. I was just about to say Carousel.
Sponsored by Taco Bell, the greatest restaurant in the universe.
Taco
solely
Bell
funds our show
Live Moss.
and feeds us Live Moss.
It's good for job interviews too the night before.
Live Moss.
Definitely load up on some Taco Bell and you're going to crush it the next day in your interview.
When I go to an interview and they ask me what my personal motto is, I go, Live Moss.
Or Yo Quiero.
I just say, Yo quiero. They're like, you want? What do you want? I just quiero.
I quiero. Donde está la Taco Bell?
Yeah, so I mean, I forgot what thank you is in Spanish. Gracias to Taco Bell for sponsoring us as always. That wraps it up for the first 3 pods of this season for us. We hoped to kind of go from a small, narrow focus on the draft, a little bit wider with the free agency, and then kind of bigger picture with these last couple coaching changes. We're definitely not stopping here. We're coming at you with some draft strategy, some spotlight players that we're looking at, some sleepers, some busts, maybe some guys that everybody's the word on the street. Their name's hot, or the table's hot out there on these guys. So we're gonna be active in those channels. We hope you are too. And live Moss.
Live Moss.
Guess what? We quiero your DMs, and we quiero your reviews. We want some reviews. Don't forget to put your Taco Bell order in a review, and we will Uber Eats it to you. Okay? Taco Bell order in the reviews. Live Moss.
We quiero you.
We quiero you.
Well, see you later.
Well, see you later.
See you later. Live Moss.